Just meet me at my porch at midnight. Oh, and meanwhile, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. Midnight?
For audiences everywhere in 1984, nothing was more terrifying than the notion of a monster that could kill you in the safest place of all, your own bed. But for a wave of indigenous Hmong refugees who came to America in the 1970s to escape the genocide and war in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, such terror followed with them. A Hmong demon, known by many names but one above all others, the Dab Tsog. This terror that followed them across the Pacific Ocean resulted in terror, nightmares, refusal to sleep, and in some reported cases, even death. Wes Craven, having read an article on this epidemic, capitalized on that inherently terrifying idea with A Nightmare on Elm Street, a horror sensation that would become the stuff of silver screen legend. This string of bizarre sleep-based fatalities is actually very well documented. It resulted in what medical professionals called sudden unexplained death syndrome. This disease goes by many names, including Brugada syndrome, sudden arrhythmic death syndrome, and perhaps most universally, nightmare death. But what caused these unexplained and chilling deaths? Science tells us it was irregularities in the brainwaves and primarily in the heartbeat. Psychology tells us these refugees were experiencing a form of post-traumatic stress disorder from the horrific Khmer Rouge death camps of Cambodia. Conspiracy tells us these people were suffering from prolonged exposure to yellow rain, a chemical weapon used against the Hmong in the Vietnam War. Yellow rain causes a loss of vision, trouble breathing as though one was being crushed, and death. The exact nature of the effects of this chemical remain unknown to this day. The CIA claimed yellow rain was the work of the Soviet Union. The Soviets in turn denied these claims. We still don't know what the truth is. However, the multitude of the Hmong people have a different answer for the nightmare death phenomena. A gaunt figure with ashen skin, its face fixed, frozen in a permanent scream, hollow black pits for eyes, and a mouth opened wide in terror. By the time you see it, it's too late. Sitting on your chest, crushing you, it wraps its hands around your neck. You're in a daze, awake but asleep. You try to fight, to scream, thrash, anything, but you can't. To many of you, this may sound like sleep paralysis. Stories are told all over the internet of sleep paralysis and the sleep paralysis demons that accompany it. A trick of the mind, perhaps, operating in the hazy plane between the lucid and the ludicrous. But for the Hmong, that demon is anything but a hazily deceptive half-dream hallucination. To them, this ominous occurrence has a name. They know it as the Dab Tsog, the night spirit. The Dab Tsog is one of hundreds of nightmare ghosts that exist across various cultures. While many share similar characteristics, ghastly specters that take your life while you're asleep, the nightmare demons of Southeast Asia are all similar in a chilling way that would seem to transcend mere coincidence, entering a disturbing realm of very real possibility. Cambodian, Laos, and Thai culture christen their demons as Phi Am or Knut Sukut, a ghost that holds down the sleeping victim, forcing them to suffer and agonize in the silence of sleep. Vietnamese call the phenomena Ma De or Bong De. In the Philippines, it's Bati Bat, a monstrous woman that crushes the victim's chest. In Malay, it's a nightmare intruder, Kena Tindi, who sneaks into the blind spots of your field of vision during sleep paralysis, takes the form of some kind of demon, and pounces on you. Picture this. You're dreaming. Are your toes in the warm sand of a sunny beach? Are you with the partner of your dreams attending a movie premiere? Perhaps you're sitting at your computer or watching a chilling YouTube video on your phone. Your hand moves, you subscribe to the channel, you ring the bell, and you stay for the terrifying and tantalizing tales to come. Back to the video. Folklorist John Michael Greer alleges in his 2001 book, Monsters, An Investigator's Guide to Magical Beings, that an astounding 60% of Hmong immigrants have had an experience with the hag spirit, or Dab Tsog. It also seems to suggest that the spirit isn't just terrorizing victims without prejudice. Rather, it's seeking worship, acting as a very real extension of the victim's cultural guilt for abandoning their homeland. The Hmong, a shamanistic people, would pay the ancestors of their household offerings and perform ceremonies for their spirits to protect them against the Dab. If these ceremonies stopped, or if other religious rules were broken, the protective power of the ancestors would lessen, and the Dab would be able to break through. In ancient Hmong culture, if a villager was attacked by a Dab Tsog, the local shamans would investigate and determine what kind of offers would need to be laid before the ancestral spirits and quell the Dab's bloodlust. As the Hmong scattered to Thailand and then to the United States, their religious ways were disrupted. The people were stretched thin, and their customs slowly lost to time. Greer posits that as most of these Hmong were relegated to living in tiny apartments, they could no longer raise the livestock they needed to perform these offerings. These apartments and living conditions also lacked a key piece of Hmong culture, what's called a central pillar. The central pillar, Greer tells us, is a universal feature in Hmong architecture and buildings. It was a conduit of sorts to channel spiritual beliefs. The central pillar, acting as such a strong symbol, was also said to be where the ancestors would live. It's noted that the Hmong who abandoned their faith for Christianity experienced a much higher rate of Dab Tsog attacks. This rate was at a staggering 72%, according to a study from 1995. Interestingly enough, the Dab Tsog didn't begin to kill until it had followed its people to America. There were no reported deaths at the hand of the Dab in Laos. When the Hmong began to settle into more rural areas where they could foster community and culture, it was then, after the initial surge of immigration, that the Dab seemed satiated. Religious communities could reunite. Families joined other families. The Dab's reign of terror was finally over. Now, after 50 years of research, no definitive reason or cause has been found in the countless studies conducted among the Hmong. The truth, in the case of the Hmong people, is stranger and perhaps more chilling than any fiction could be. America's cultural lexicon has interred many of the customs of the old world. The vampire of Slavic folklore didn't seem to follow the Russian immigrants to America. The banshees of Irish folklore didn't follow across the Atlantic. What made the Dab so different, so angry? An ocean simply couldn't keep the Dab away. Without the protection of their ancestors, in America, the Hmong people were vulnerable. Easy prey, perhaps, at the clutches of a vengeful spirit. Perhaps the Dab is a warning to all of us, to never forget our roots and to honor those that came before us. A grim, potentially fatal reminder that we should honor the past and respect it, even if we are no longer beholden to it. We still leave cookies and milk out for St. Nick during his December ride. We still carve pumpkins to give thanks for a bountiful harvest and to ward off evil spirits. We hold our breath passing cemeteries. We say bless you when somebody sneezes. We don't walk under ladders for fear of bad luck, nor do we break mirrors. Why? If we stop, will the demons of our past come for us? Surely not, right? But we still haven't stopped. Is it because they're watching us, making sure we still pay tribute in our own ways? Is it because if we don't, we'll open our eyes one night only to find we cannot move? Will we thrash and scream only for nothing to come out? Will we look into the darkness out of the corner of our eyes and see that what was a pile of laundry is now moving? The shadows on the walls from the windows dancing? Our once empty coat on a hanger now filled with an entity that watches us? Probably not. But still, it's best not to risk it, isn't it?